but his car collection is something that is definitely to be noted. So before we begin any of this nonsense stock market talk, let's talk about his cars, bro. So we have like a personal affinity towards him because we keep tracking the stock, but we also track the man behind the stock. They spent about 10 crores on getting that IPL associate sponsorship. They transitioned from becoming traditional stockbrokers who were based out of just outlets and buildings and brick and mortar and paper to completely digitizing their operations and getting into the whole discount broking space.
Number of active users has come down from 71% of the total clientele to 31% of the total clientele. So
that's not ideal.
yeah, it's just that I think people downloaded the apps,
and then just left it.
made their accounts, and then just left it.
Hello and welcome back to the podcast. My name is Ayush and we have Prateek Bafna on the
hello.
panel once again. Today's podcast, before we even begin any of the stock conversation that we're going to have for today, let's just drop our CTA as we always do. We do portfolio reviews for free. If you're someone who invests in the market and is a little cautious, a little skeptical of what their stocks are, how their portfolio is performing, then do go to the link below. We'll give you a free portfolio review where we'll tell you where you're going wrong, where you're going right, and how you can make your portfolio better. It's all for free. We're doing this just out of the goodness of our hearts because we're just good guys like that. And
You also get a free call with us, by the way. Yeah,
free call
you
with
get a
one of
free
our
call
fund
with us.
managers as well, where he'll tell you exactly where you've messed up, if you've messed up at all. And who knows, maybe you'd be onboarded as a client at some point and we'll be managing money together. But for today, we're talking about a company that also manages money, has been in the stockbroking business for more than 25, 30, odd 30 years now. And this is none other than AngelOne Broking. I think the company's evolved massively over the past 2 decades or so. And the more famous part of this is Dinesh Thakkar, the MD and CEO, who's got not just a brilliant presence as the MD of the company, but his car collection is something that is definitely to be noted. So before we begin any of this nonsense stock market talk, let's talk about his cars, bro. So he's got a Porsche Taycan Turbo S, Mercedes-Benz EQE, Ferrari 488 Pista, Mercedes-Benz AMG GTR Black, Lamborghini
I
Huracan
hope all this is
Performante.
not at the expense of shareholders'
I mean,
money.
I really hope so too because he's got one of my favorite cars. He's got the Porsche 911 GT3 RS.
That's a crazy
It's a
one.
brilliant car. He's just got one of his first electric cars in his supercar collection. I mean, he's just a petrol head. He's just a car head all over. So we have like a personal affinity towards him because we keep tracking the stock, but we also track the man behind the stock. But the stock in itself has had quite the massacre lately. It's dropped by 45-50% in just since December 2024 to now.
Is it because of the market fall like regular, or is it company specific?
It could be a mix of both. I mean, you're right about the fact that the market in general has fallen tremendously, but this seems to be more company specific than anything else. So, just to give you a little bit of a brief, Angel One's recently gotten into the whole IPL space. That's probably where you may have seen their names plastered across the podium of the stadium. But they spent about 10 crores on getting that IPL associate sponsorship. I mean, that's not a small amount for anyone, but this company is huge enough to have to afford it. But what people seem to be skeptical about is yes, they have a great brand image out there. They're doing really well as a broking company, but what's hidden behind that facade, right? Is there more to it than just, oh, we're the IPL sponsors, oh, our MD has a great car collection? Let's talk about three things. 45% plunge in stocks. Their profit has nosedived by 49% year on year as of this quarter's result to about 175 crores. And their clientele, now this is where it gets a little weird. They have about 3.1 crore registered users on their app. Now they're completely app based, out of which only 76 lakh are active users. So that's about a 25-24% active clientele base.
So basically, the rest of the accounts are dormant.
Yeah, they're either used once and then never used again, or they're so infrequent that they don't even matter as active clientele anymore. And this is from like 31% a year ago, and we'll get to how big this number was at some point when their business wasn't as digital, wasn't as tech driven. But yeah, the entire story behind Apollo it seems,
Angel.
Angel One, is that they transitioned from becoming traditional stockbrokers who were based out of just outlets and buildings and brick and mortar and paper to completely digitizing their operations and getting into the whole discount broking space. Now, that we've already covered this once before on our blog a year or so ago, where it was a positive outlook because they'd done so well, their growth numbers were insane, which we'll also recap now. But what's happened in the last 2 years is something that's not very positive. So let's go ahead and talk about first what happened. Like, why did they have to change their business? What did they change into? And where are they at right now, and then we'll take it forward from there.
Done, done. Yes, I mean, you could take Angel One's business you could divide it in three parts, their whole business over the years. So I think the first part would be pre 2015, which is your typical traditional model, wherein they have been earning their money via percent of the trade value. So I think, and that ranges from I think around 0.25 to 0.5%. And
0.25,
yeah, yeah.
okay, so that's
But
very
then
minimal.
broking, anyways, it's again a volume
Right.
game. The more the number of transactions, the more you earn. So that and advisory fees. So I'm sure they might be giving advisory to the clients as well. Only then they might be able to take those trades. So that is there. And then and in that period they were fully physical. They had their offline branches everywhere, and they tried and built trust, by giving those personalized services. So they earned the trust of
So they were basically a full service
full service
stockbroker, like
stockbroker.
your Motilal Oswal and stuff
Yes.
like that. Got it.
Yeah, so this was the first part. Now the second is the hybrid model, which was 2015 to 19. So this period, you could say they pivoted to a different kind of a business model wherein they started, understanding the value of digitization now. So they started, digitizing their processes. Then they reduced the number of branches. So basically they went full online. Now even yeah, as you mentioned, Motilal Pele physical, but now they also have their own apps. They are also going digital. Same Angel did it in 2015 to 19, and they built eKYC, digital advisory, everything. So basically, whatever was offline, they got it to online. And post 2019, I think almost majority of their business has now become digital. So now what they do is like earlier they used to charge a percent of the trade value, right? Now they have decided we won't take any percent. We'll charge you flat fee. So I think they charge around flat 20 rupees per trade. And yeah, and it doesn't make sense if you're making a trade of like 50 lakhs or 5 lakhs. You
Correct.
will
It's
be
just
charged
20 rupees
20 rupees
anyway.
per trade.
Got it.
So that is that. And again, same 100% digital acquisition, onboarding, trade execution. So what is interesting is the majority of the revenue as of now comes from FNO.
Okay, so for the uninitiated, FNO is basically
Yeah,
futures and
futures and
options.
options. Yeah.
It's derivatives market where you're playing on the luck factor of whether a stock will go up or not, and you're basically betting. It's
Betting.
essentially betting. There's no other way to put it. And FNO is quite the risky endeavor. So, as investment advisors ourselves, we should give you that warning that FNO trading is not something that we promote or do, in fact, with our funds. It's highly risky. In fact, I think SEBI released this one interesting fact, which, I mean, sabki gaan fad gayi, essentially, is that 93% of FNO traders lose money. Now, this number, I mean, everyone has it at the tip of their tongue. One in every 1 lakh, one in every 1 million users only make money. Rest of them are failing at trading as a concept. Yet, trading has been such an important aspect of the Indian financial culture that it just doesn't seem to go away. So, SEBI has had to put a real hard
But
stop
they'll
to it.
actually, yeah, but it was needed also,
It
right?
was
I
needed.
mean, people were losing money, their hard-earned
Exactly.
money. They're like, एक bet लेके देख ही लेता हूँ. And even if there is
And
a loss, they're like, नहीं, next trade में मैं loss cover
it's
कर लूँगा.
selective gambling is what it
Yeah.
is, right? And
So,
that comes into play in this whole story as we move along. But this is what the business model has been. So
yes,
essentially, as you said, from a percentage based revenue model, they've gone to a flat
flat fee
fee. From being a completely brick and mortar business model, they've gone to
to
a digital model.
completely digital.
And before, where they made about 50-60% of their revenues from equities, which is whatever trade transactions are happening through their broking service, that used to make up majority of the revenue. Now
And now I think that is
FNOs,
11%. And
that's a huge
and
transition.
FNO has gone up to 84 or 85%.
That is from 38%
Yes.
back in your pre 2015 era. Interesting.
But then this also shows that after COVID, I think I've seen a sudden rise in these FNO transactions, right? And
Right.
I think that is the time where all these brokers also earned massively.
Correct.
I think 20 same. I think the same was for Angel One, right? I think post COVID, when this trading started, people got interested in about stock markets.
Right.
They went started trading. They did FNO. I think that the 2021 2022
I
period
think
was
everyone was
good.
sitting at home and
Yeah,
learning how to
it
do
was good
this.
for all the
So it
brokers. I
was
think
great.
Angel One also gave a huge run up during that period itself.
That's a good point because when we're looking at, let's say, 2015 to 2019, let's just break it down again. 96 to 2015, that's a huge period of time. They made merely an 8% CAGR in revenue and 6% CAGR in net profit growth.
Almost in line then. मतलब
Yeah, I
revenue
mean,
and PAT का
it's,
अगर
yeah,
almost in line.
almost
Yeah.
in line. So it's growing linearly. Their hybrid phase, which is 2015 to 2019, when they were just moving towards being digital, their growth numbers increased. It was 11% revenue growth and 9% profit growth.
So basically, this shows that their move of shifting to digital was
Was a good
working, was
idea.
paying off for them.
Absolutely. And then the real switch up happened in 2019 to 2024 when they've completely moved to digital and COVID hit at the same time. Yet their growth numbers are 43% revenue CAGR and 43 to 44% net profit CAGR. So in a very short span of time. So they've definitely had that high growth phase because of not just going digital, but going flat fee, going FNO heavy, all of those things.
But what is interesting in this data point is that their clientele, I think number of clients were at what 2.1 million during the before COVID.
Right.
And right after COVID, I think 2019 to 24, it went to 24.7 million, from
Oof.
2.1 million to 24.7
That's
million.
crazy.
There was
Like a 12x.
yeah, a massive jump in their clientele. But
Right.
the
There's always a
problem,
but.
yeah, the problem is there. 71% of the clients were active post in during the 2015 to 2019 period,
Got it.
right? And now when they have seen a massive jump, a 12x jump in their number of clientele, but at the same time their number of active users has come down from 71% of the total clientele to 31% of the
Ooh,
total clientele.
that's
So
not ideal.
yeah, it's
That's not
just that I
ideal.
think people downloaded the apps,
And then just left it.
made their accounts, and then just left it.
That's
Uh,
unfortunate.
that has been the case with them. So, this was their business model.
Right.
We told our viewers, yeah, these are the stats, these are the key figures, you need to keep in mind. So now, but what happened?
Yeah.
Why such a fall? When did it all start falling for them?
So the problem again is in the three aspects that we've bottled or come down to in terms of Angel One as an entity. They went FNO heavy, they went digital heavy, and they went flat fee. These three major changes is what has caused them to become Angel One from just being Angel Stockbroking. But those three aspects is where they've also screwed up royally over the last 2 years. Now, we mentioned the fact that SEBI released the information that 93% of FNO traders are not making money. So, we would like to put a hard stop on who enters the FNO market and who doesn't. Now, the first way to do that is what happened in November 2024. This announcement was a huge shock to the entire industry because a lot of the volumes of daily trades that come in are usually
Majority come through
FNO.
FNO.
Exactly. And India is a very FNO friendly environment, but they've now done this thing where they've raised the minimum amount that you can place for a contract. So I think previously I'm unsure of how much of a fraction of this it was, but now it's 15 lakh rupees for a single contract for index derivatives. So that's your Nifty and Bank Nifty and stuff like that. So this cutoff of 15 lakhs now excludes about 68-70% of the retail traders who are trading FNO on a daily basis.
And this will be a massive hit
So
to the revenues
huge hit
because
to the revenues.
84% comes through FNO.
Correct. So when that much of your business is coming from FNO, wherein 45-50% of their daily volumes were also FNO, and now they're saying that only people who can invest 15 lakhs or more are allowed to trade in FNO markets, that removes 70% of the trading community.
Already the penetration of stock market in
Is
our country is
minimal.
in
It's
single
less than
digits.
10%.
Upar se people having 15 lakhs, their income above 15 lakhs
It's a
is
very, very
also
niche
a
crowd.
minuscule number then I think. Yeah.
Absolutely. And they've just made it more strict. A lot of the so margin payments, margin is essentially the amount that you need to have balance in your account to show that you are able to trade. Without a margin, you cannot trade. But earlier it was not as stringent. Now they expect a certain X amount of margin to be in your account prior to you making the trade in the first place. All of these are great, great initiatives by SEBI because of risk mitigation.
Agreed. But then just a second thought.
Yeah, yeah.
Shouldn't stock market be a free market? I mean,
Sure. I mean, but by that
if
logic, no regulation should be there, right? But true. This is a little too intense. Like 15 lakhs, even we can't trade. Like as
obviously,
individuals,
yeah.
we won't be able to trade. So that does put us in a tight spot, and it put Angel One in a huge tight spot. Wherein about 13, 14, 15% of their total revenue, so that's about 1200, 1300 crores, direct hit as soon as the announcement hit. So there's a reason why their profits declined by 40, 50, 60% year on year is because this one segment that was making them so much money is now almost non-existent. So within, I think, the first 10 days of this news coming out in November 2024, that's when the first real hit in the stock price came in. So 22% decline in 10 days happened with Angel One back then. That's when people started thinking ki something's off. Because if one news can do so much damage, then what will the actual effect of the FNO trading regulation come in? What will that do to the revenue numbers? But that's just one of the problems. We have two more to cover. Another really stupid problem that arose, which is actually quite recent, it happened in March, where 2.5 million of their clients, so that's about, I mean, it's less than 10%. You said 24 million, 30 million around, let's round off. उसमें से two
31% are active. So you just
हाँ
take a ballpark
हाँ
number. 8 million are active.
हाँ
उसमें से
उसमें
2
से
million. So
2.5 मिलियन
25%.
उसमें से
हाँ. So
तो
25% का clientele हो गया वो फिर.
that's crazy and their data got leaked. Now the problem with going yeah,
How
their
did
data
that
got
happen?
leaked. So that's the problem with going digital too quick, right? You don't spend time in building that tech stack. You don't spend time on building the risk mitigation strategy that you need to ensure that your client's data is safe. I mean, that's the first objective, right? If you have an app and you're signing terms and conditions, the least you can do is data तो safe रहना चाहिए. बट ये डोमिनोज वाला सीन हो गया कि एक बार नंबर डाल दिया डोमिनोज में 10-15 लोग कॉल करेंगे एजुकेशन लोन के लिए ये लोन के लिए इंश्योरेंस के लिए एंड दैट्स व्हाट्स हैपेंड टू दीस 2.5 million clients of Angel One as well. And right after this news also, about 2 days it took for the stock to again tank by 11%. So this is as recent as last month, last. So there you go, right? Like what they thought was a good idea, going hard on FNO, failed because of because of a SEBI announcement. Going hard on digital failed because they didn't put too much effort in securing the data. And what happens with what you mentioned, right? Where at one point 75% of their clientele was active, now it's like 30%, 25%. That in itself shows like a trajectory of okay, I don't trust Angel One anymore. And there's so many more options. There's your Zerodha, there's your Grow, there's your other discount brokers that have come up, they've sprung up because of this movement of discount brokers, that no one really wants to rely on a company that A once was just a brick and mortar company that is now trying their hand at digitization, and B who does stuff like this, right? Like why would you trust a company or an app where your data could get leaked if you're an
Yeah.
active user?
Where money is involved.
Where money is involved, no one's going to take that risk, and that's going to definitely prove to be a really problematic aspect in FY26. But these two problems were also fine because they were one-off cases, one-off SEBI regulation that you can't control, one-off data leak that I mean you should be able to control, but you couldn't. But there's also another metric that's been like a silent killer to their numbers, which is called as average revenue per user. Now already their users are itna sa now compared to their complete base. And earlier, what was happening is based on the amount you're trading, you're getting a percentage cut off of that trade, and that's your revenue as a stockbroking company. Angel One was the first company to put a flat fee model. They pioneered in this, and after they started it, everyone did it. Now, when everyone does something where everyone's charging 20 rupees for a trade, the only
Some
way to stay competitive.
oversmart people might have undercut the
Exactly.
prices.
You start undercutting, you start trying to beat your peers. Peers is a loose term, competitors. So that results in something called a price war, where each stockbroking company is trying to get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And only the person who has enough scale and volume and trust will be able to sustain at even those discounted prices. And Angel One clearly wasn't able to do that because their average revenue per user went from 86 rupees 2 years ago to 57 rupees now, and it's dipping further as of this quarter. It might, I mean, I think it has crossed past the 50 rupee limit. So that's a huge, I mean, it's just not making sense as maths also. Now, for the user, let's put a little more context. For a stockbroker to get a client of any kind, they have to spend an average of 3,200 bucks. This can be in the form of marketing, ads, whatever, falana dhikana. It takes 3,200 bucks to get you as a client. Now, if you Pratik are trading at whatever level, but you're playing a fat fee, you're playing a flat fee, right? So every month, let's say they are giving, they're getting 57 rupees from you. So you're placing like what, three trades? Sure, on average, 57 rupees a month every month. If you're trading regularly, it will take the company 5 years to just acquire that cost back
Cost
and
back.
get break even on you as one user.
No one user. I was just calculating that in my mind right
Imagine,
now.
right? So if it's taking such a huge stockbroker, like these guys before your 2015 era, they had 180 outlets across the country. They were huge, huge. Like they had a double digit market share. They were killing it. Now, when a company like that goes from that era and that legacy to this, it's just depressing to look at. And it's depressing for the investor to even stay invested because where is the alpha? Where are you making money? Why are you sticking around in a business that's transitioned and then dying? It's almost like their ambition took them too far. So there's this Greek Nordic story of this angel called Icarus. I'm sure you've
Yeah.
heard, right? Where him and his father got imprisoned. His father made wings out of feathers and wax. Icarus, because he thought wo bahut chaud mein, he tried to go too close to the sun and his wings melted and he died. People are trying to associate that story and this story because Dinesh Thakkar and his entire team was very ambitious. Going from that kind of stockbroking business to now an entirely digital, it was a bold, bold move and it worked out. And now it's really not working out.
But then if he has such a car collection and if he wants to buy more, he'll have to say take such
Honestly, yeah,
bold decisions.
exactly. Like even if it's for his personal benefit, which I'm
Yeah.
sure it's not, but it's got to be at some point, he will try to do something to ensure that the business stays afloat at least. So I think they're doing three things for that also. Let's discuss that. Starting with the mutual fund industry. Now, currently, mutual funds make up 1 to 2% of their revenues. Now, this is like distribution revenue that they're getting. They don't actually own any products. But what they've done here is right now they have less than 500 crores in mutual fund AUM. So, whatever clientele that they have for mutual funds is only 500 crores. They want to 10x that by, I think there is, yeah, next year. I call bullshit. क्योंकि 10x in a year in a market where no one wants to stay invested only. Every other day you see a sell off.
So this is basically the number of clients which they brought in, right? You
Yes.
were telling they are a distributor as well.
They're a distributor as well. I'm not sure if they have their own mutual fund license.
Yeah, I don't think they
Yeah,
are the mutual fund. So
right.
basically, all this is the distribution income,
Correct, correct, correct.
and is the and people who are doing SIP from their apps
Right,
or mutual funds
right.
is that also
Is that
considered?
counted? Yes, yes,
Yeah,
that's completely
that's
counted.
okay.
So their entire SIP book, one time book, whatever book you want to call it,
Hmm.
mutual fund का इतना ही है 500 crore. They want to make that 5,000 crore in 1 year.
But this is also very low considering people. It has now become so easy for someone to do an SIP. Just I
I
think a few
mean,
clicks and
Grow
you
is the
are
best example for what
yeah,
you're
a
saying.
few clicks and you are able to start your SIP,
Exactly.
and 485 crores is too
Uh,
less
it's
for
very
a
less.
company like Angel One.
And once again, their ambition is far more than the reality. So whether they are so to make this work, they need to onboard 5 million new customers at 2,000 bucks a month in terms of distribution to reach that 10x wala scale. This is basic math. That would entail converting 1 in 6 of its total clientele to actual mutual fund. Now their almost entire clientele is FNO trader. उनकी पहले से ही
यार और FNO वाले I don't think so SIP करेंगे म्यूचुअल फंड में.
exactly. It's like two separate
हाँ,
audiences altogether. Like अगर रेस कार ड्राइवर को बोल दे कि आज से तू साइकिल चलाएगा
पॉसिबल ही
थोड़ी
नहीं
ही करेगा.
है.
It's the same logic, and you make absolute sense. Where even if they're able to convert 1 in 6, which is in itself a huge task, how will they do it? What is the value proposition going to be? In fact, I mean, this is an off the record statement that an angel broking employee made that they're literally telling the losing people in the FNO trading, like, oh, you've lost money here, ये ले free SIP. We're not going to charge you the distribution. तो बस start कर ले. They just want the clientele. They just want the AUM. Whether they're losing money on it doesn't matter anymore. वो 5,000 crore का target है. They're somehow going to get that. Now, how they do that, whether it's underhanded, whether they fudge the numbers, whether they're actually able to organically do this, which is a very, very, very long shot. Because to do that, they'll have to convert from 1 to 2% of revenues now to 25% of revenues for this to even make
It
sense.
makes sense.
So that's crazy. Like, there's no point. So I don't know how they're gonna achieve this mutual fund thing. But what else are they
So yeah,
doing?
so this is just one thing, right?
Yeah,
And so the second again, with new companies going digital, there is this one common trend. Cost cutting कर लेते हैं थोड़ा.
ऑफ कोर्स मजा आता है ना
हाँ,
लोगों को
जोमेटो ने किया
फायर
अभी.
करके
हाँ, जोमेटो ने किया अभी 2 राउंड्स किए
थिंक दे
थे,
डिड लाइक
600
600
people.
राइट
That was based
we're
on
lucky
cost
to have
cutting.
jobs
Touch wood.
if our
Then so I
boss is watching this please don't fire us
then I think so. Yeah, again, even I think in this financial year's quarter, sorry, FY25's first quarter itself, I think reduced 27% of their staff.
workforce
They laid
oof
off 27% of the staff. So, and tech का जो spend है, जो already weak है, जिस पे they should be
clearly
spending more to make it more secure for their clients, which was I think around 18% of the revenues, has now they are now cut it down to 12% of the
वाह
revenues.
भाई
तो वापस वो रिस्क आ जाता है. I'm not
and
saying
this
it will
is
happen again, but then
true
again एक बार वो दिमाग में बैठ जाता है कि they are not prioritizing tech now. This might
exactly
happen again.
correct
So
and this information is public like
yeah,
it's not that we've dug this out from anywhere आप अगर Google search कर लो and it takes like an hour you will find all of this information on your own and that's the problem right well sure इतना research is difficult to do but you will find this one factoid that tells you कि they're spending lesser on tech as each quarter passes so whether they give a crap about tech in terms of safety security or in general if they give a
so
crap about their
again
tech stack
मतलब what he's trying to ऐसा preach कि हाँ मैं tech,
hmm.
but then he is not fulfilling on that particular promise.
exactly
So there is a mismatch in what
Hmm. It's
is
really risky. I mean, like, we've not heard a single thing, even in their recovery plan, that sounds promising enough to be like, Acha, haan, khush.
होगा कुछ.
You never know. And I think apart from that, now Dinesh Thakkar also has this huge vision of we're going to tap into Bharat, right? And while 10% se kam log invest kar rahe hain, most of them are urban clientele. So what he means by Bharat is your rural,
Now
which is
go
your
to ऐसा
volume play.
tier 2, tier 3
He's going to go
villages.
exactly the buzzword of tier 2 tier 3 is using that now what he's trying to say is that 60% of their new clients are expected to come from that sect of the nation lower income not from a metropolitan city
Are they
and
giving freebies here also?
I'm sure they will I think there's one plan that they started called I think rozgar trader which in itself is a very demeaning name मतलब अगर
Yeah.
अगर कोई फार्मर को जाके बोलेगा रोजगार बनेगा बोले, मैं ऑलरेडी हूँ they want a premium offering you are giving them a shittier offering by telling them that for 500 bucks a month we'll give you unlimited trades now for someone who has no idea what trading is 500 रुपए भर के क्या ही उखाड़ लेंगे
यार गरीब को और गरीब बनाओ वाली
that is
योजना है
exact
ये.
ये रिवर्स रॉबिन हुड हो गया last week we covered a Robin Hood guy अच्छा guy this time we're covering the
Uno
guy
reverse.
Uno reverse and they're targeting gig workers they're targeting first time investors they're targeting the lower income who can't afford to maybe place that 20 rupee flat fee every time they trade
Yeah, honestly, this could be a good idea. I mean, they're thinking on the right lines, but their
sure हाँ
execution and the way they're approaching this plan is pretty.
yeah you never know how
Yeah,
successful this execution bit is going to be sure rozgar trader plan
it
sounds
might just
catchy
backfire
it
on
might
them.
it really might
Or
because
I
how
think
many
what
traders
if
will they have
Sebi
to
just comes in and asks them to,
it's a
yeah,
very so that's
because
the
it.
again that's a very good point that Pratik's making wherein the industry is so regulated that at any given point of time the risk of an entire section of the population being delineated as a trader is very high you never know when you can stop having a demat account because you don't qualify a certain criteria or you can't like stop trading altogether because sebi said no
But then this is possible, right? SEBI also has their say in what these people, at least the capital market players, formulate their plans. Because I think this had happened with NSE also, right? Recently, they had changed their expiry ka date, but then SEBI ne bola ki nahi,
yes
can't do that.
correct and then they
And
reversed the
what
whole
if
thing
a plan maybe if it's hurting the common man,
you never know
SEBI might
because
just
they're
come in.
absolutely and sebi is
Hmm.
actually I mean this is a personal opinion but sebi is better than in the sec of the us I
Definitely,
fully
definitely.
agree with that because they don't give a crap. If you're fleecing the public, they will screw you over. So yeah, while the proposition for this thing seems fairly okay, as you said, you never know what the execution is going to be like. But the problem again with Angel One is that they're competing in such a saturated market now, where Grow is like a huge entity in the discount broking space. Then you have Zerodha, another huge entity, who's doing almost the exact same thing with a different app. Grow has a better app for mutual funds, वगैरह. Zerodha has a good app for your trading with Kite. Where are they competing, who are they competing with, and whether they'll be able to outpace their competition anymore is what's at stake here, because they've done the transformation, they've spent the money, they've screwed up anyway, and now they're trying to unscrew up by not screwing up as much anymore. I mean, I don't understand what Angel One's trying to do, but the numbers don't look good at all. I mean, let's take a look where
Hmm.
revenue growth between FY24 and the expected FY26 number is at about 4 to 6% for Angel One, and we somehow got gross numbers here where they're expecting or already on track for a 20% growth at the same time. Like maybe 5% and 20% is a huge difference. Same way with profitability is also a very similar quantum of difference, wherein Grow is going to outpace Angel One any day. And then you have valuations where Grow is going to come out with its IPO. So we've got a little bit information on what their value is going to be at. And on a 1 year forward price to earnings ratio, which is basically expecting what the next year is going to hold for them at the current price, they're trading at a 30 times, which is high, fair. But Angel One is trading at 18 times, which is like a 40% discount.
But then that's the thing, right? If they're giving you such growth rates, grow, they might just command that higher
Yeah,
valuation
exactly. I mean,
multiple.
literally grow
Because
kar raha
as
hai.
far as I remember, this Angel one also during its peak, I mean, I think 21, 22, 23, it was
Yeah,
also trading, I think, in the above 30
right,
for
right.
sure.
When the growth
Yeah,
was
yeah,
that high,
40,
yeah,
50, I think they were trading.
correct, correct.
People told that it was unsustainable, and
Yeah,
whenever the cycle went bad in the market,
it did
the
reflect.
stock did
Yeah,
derate. So yeah, I think currently it is in that stage. And one thing which is very very interesting now, that if you see all the numbers, I think revenue and PAT numbers were in line, CAGR.
yeah,
So they
yeah,
were able to maintain their margins.
correct.
But now the revenue numbers, they might just go and increase the revenue numbers, but the way these people are trying to operate or going to operate will definitely put a dent on their margins.
Absolutely,
So they
absolutely.
might again see a derating, or they might not again get to that level of valuations which they earlier used to get, because
Correct.
there will be a hit on their margins as well.
I mean, this is that point in their business where they may have to just transform all over again. And their way of transforming it is going cheaper and going mutual fund. Now, whether that's going to work out in their favor when A, there's already someone doing it cheaper, and B, there's already someone who's really good at mutual funds. I mean, if you're competing in that kind of space, then you either have to be delusional or you have to be like you'll have some kind of ace up your sleeve where you know ki isme I can make
कर
money
लूंगा मैं
and मैं कर लूंगा. So yeah, Angel One story is on that trajectory, and it's not a pretty sight as of now, where 20 years of legacy has made them at such a height, and then you suddenly take them off that pedestal because they grew too quick and they didn't think about the cost of growing that at that pace. And then obviously there's contingent activities that are happening around them that's affecting them, which is again some not in their control, some in their control, and that's reflecting in the numbers almost instantaneously. If you'd like to see the numbers that we're talking about and the story that we're talking about, we'll link the bio in the blog in the description below so that you can get a sense of what we're talking about with the visual element.
Or you guys could just subscribe to our newsletter. I mean, you'll get
It's about
uh,
time, I think.
yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, you'll get every week you'll get a new story. Yeah.
exactly. And you'll get a little bit of a market update also.
Yes.
So from our fund managers, so they're our bosses, they know better than we do. So their advice combined with our research is a great newsletter offering that we come up with, and it's free, obviously.
A 10-minute read on your weekend. Yeah.
Absolutely. What harm does that
Yeah.
do, right? So yeah, we'll put that link in the description
We'll
also.
do that. Yeah.
Link description में बहुत सारे links आने वाले हैं. आप link पे link click कर लो अभी. But yeah, point being, a legend in the stockbroking segment, a legend of a person. Now they're stuck with like a sword hanging over their heads about whether they will sustain as a company or not, which is a huge, huge problem to have, not just as a stock investor like us, but generally as a business, like whether they will survive the next 10 years of the transition that the Indian capital markets are going to go through, what SEBI has in store in terms of risk mitigation, how much tech are they going to develop to ensure that the trust factor comes back and away from players like Grow, Zerodha, etc. It's a lot of ifs, buts, and maybes. Whether you want to stay invested in an if but maybe stock, that's up to you. But currently,
Yeah,
this is what the story is.
basically you guys need to track the execution of the plans. If
Yeah,
you ever feel like you're interested in the stock, do track the executions and
correct,
then
correct.
make any decisions.
And this blog would be a good starting point for you to get a context about what the stock is like,
Mm,
which may not be available in any other source, because I don't think anyone's covered it to this extent where you have a combined information of 20 years worth of research. So yeah, Angel One, grow or grave. That's the kind of image we're going with, and we hope for the best for the company, obviously, but you never know. So stay cautious. The markets are always unpredictable. Just as any other stock, this is one of those.
yes,
That's
yeah,
all
I
for
think
today, I
yes,
think. Once again, if you think that your stock portfolio has red flags like Angel One and other stocks that you think are not really doing well for you, and you have no idea why your portfolio is not doing as well, then come to us. We'll do it for free. Have a chat with us. Let's see how it goes, and hopefully you
yes,
become partners with us, or we part separate ways and you get a free portfolio review out of it. No harm, no foul. That's all for
yeah.
today, folks. Thank you so much for sticking around. Take care, and we'll see you next week.
Don't forget to like, share, and
I
subscribe.
keep forgetting. Thank you. Thank you. Take care. Good night.
Yes.